Hey everyone, this is Dr. Casey Johnson. Thank you so much for taking time to listen to the Unlock Wellness podcast. I know you're going to love today's episode with Katie Bush. Katie is doing some amazing work, so I'm excited to have her on to share a story with you guys. If you've been loving the Unlock Wellness podcast, be sure to jump onto iTunes, subscribe, and write a review. It really helps me out a lot, and I really appreciate all of the feedback and support. Also, be sure to follow me on social media to keep up with the latest podcast episodes. The best way to connect with me is on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. My username across the board is at Dr. Casey Johnson. That's DrKaseyJohnson. You can also check out my website at drcaseyjohnson.com. It has all of the past podcast episodes and more information about each guest under the Listen tab. While you're on my site, be sure to check out the Shop tab, where you can check out my first book of my Healthy Children's Book series and learn about the Unlock Wellness Project, which supplies a wellness bag to a child in need for each book purchased. Thank you again for listening. I hope this episode leaves you feeling inspired to start making positive changes to your health. Now it's time for today's episode. I hope you love my conversation with Katie Bush. Welcome to the Unlock Wellness podcast. I'm Dr. Casey and excited for today's guest. I'm here with Katie Bush, and Katie is owner of an amazing plant-based restaurant that is local to me, and it's called Pressed, and it's in Winter Garden, Florida, and I'm obsessed with it, so it's going to be a lot of fun. But Katie is doing some amazing work, so I'm excited to have her on to share her story and everything that she's been working on. So, Katie, thank you so much for taking time to come on. I'm excited to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and big shout out to my sister-in-law, Rebecca. She actually connected me with Katie. So, Becca, if you're listening, I love you. And yeah, you guys are actually in the same Facebook moms group, right?
Correct, yes.
That's funny. But yeah, I've been wanting to reach out to you guys actually before she even told me about that. So it was actually really good timing because there's a lot of really great local plant-based places to eat. So I thought it would be really cool to connect with different places that are local. So when she told me that, it was just really awesome timing.
Yeah, it was actually pretty perfect because sometimes we just get so bogged down with emails of things coming in, and the direct contact really made it perfect. So I'm glad that worked out.
Yeah. And, just to kind of jump into it, Katie, kind of start with your backstory. First off, where you're from and what your own personal wellness journey has looked like for you. Like, what did your health look like as a kid? So everyone kind of understands how your health has evolved over time.
Yeah. So we are actually, and when I say we, I mean my family, because I consider myself one of the co-owners. It's family owned. My mom and my stepdad, Jim, are part of it. Deb's in the store a lot. That's my mom. And then myself as well. And back in 2013, before I got married, we had a little family meeting, and my mom was like, look, Winter Garden doesn't have anything really healthy to eat. I think Sprouts was there at the time, but at that time they did not have the smoothies and juices that they had before the end of their journey. So she was renting a place at the real estate location on the corner of Plant and Boyd. And they had a small break room that was 200 square feet. And she presented to us and said, we can try this out and see if Winter Garden is interested in having a smoothie place and if we can fill a niche. And so we were like, yeah, let's give it a try. We all committed to giving all of our spare hours to opening the place up and running it and seeing how it would go with Winter Garden and if the people would take us. And we went in with minimal risk and no debt and figured if all else fails, we liquidate the equipment and get rid of the rent and we're done. So Winter Garden loved us, which was amazing. We had a ton of support from the get-go, and it just made sense with having the trail right there and so many people active and healthy and young families. So we grew exponentially each month. And by the end of 2013, we had already outgrown the space. We just couldn't stay in there anymore. It was getting too big. We were doing too much and we didn't have the room. So that was amazing. Pretty much my mom was always interested in health, and When she was younger, she wasn't as healthy, and she kind of knew a little bit, but not a lot. And, at one point she thought like, oh, I can, my daughter is so picky, I can give her fruit roll-ups and at least she'll get some fruit in or something, not
Right.
knowing that fruit roll-ups really aren't that healthy. So it was kind of that. And then as she kept learning and aging, she was getting more and more interested, especially as her body started to feel the effects of aging. And she wanted to make sure that we didn't have some of the struggles that she did, which was constantly battling weight. So this was it was a perfect fit. She was going to get her health certificate as like a personal health coach or some kind of health class that she was looking into going through a college, but the tuition was insane. So she pulled up a couple of the syllabi from different professors and was able to just buy the books and read them.
I like it.
So while she doesn't have a quote unquote, degree in it, she is very interested in and has done a lot of reading on it. And let's see, can I keep talking?
Yeah, keep going.
Okay. This is the story, the rundown. So Plant Street Market was getting ready to open up, and we had the opportunity to double our space into a 400 square foot area, expand our menu, and we took that opportunity and closed Boyd Street and moved there. I want to say it ended up opening up in 2015. And so we just transitioned over there, and it was a seamless move. And we are so thankful for the foot traffic over there because it just cannot
Definitely.
be beat. Having all the new people that come in and find us all the time and be able to serve our regulars there as well. And then last year, 2017, we got an opportunity for even more space in Stony Brook West, right across from the Publix. And we have our kitchen location there, which was first intended just for us to literally cook and supply the juice bar in the Plant Street Market with enough food for everybody. We do serve a little bit out of the kitchen, but it's not our main purpose there. But it is technically a second location for us. And that's where we currently are with our journey.
No, that's awesome. And yeah, for you guys listening, just to kind of lay out the way that her restaurant is, it's like, it's kind of like, I mean, what you describe it as like a market. It's like you go in and there's a bunch of different restaurants that you could go to. You could walk around, like there's like a brewery on one end, and then there's a bunch of like fried food and pizza in the center, and then you have pressed. So it's really amazing, like she was saying, because it is different than anything that's offered in that area. And that area is really a cool place to be. I mean, Winter Garden is amazing, and there's so many different places that you could go to, and it has like a really homey feel. I think Winter Garden's amazing. So like what you're offering there is different, and I think it's a perfect fit for that area.
For sure. It's definitely a very family fun area, up and coming. The real estate is booming there. I actually live just blocks from the Plant Street Market, so I managed to buy at the perfect time before it got so busy. But I can walk to work most days if it's not sweltering, so that's nice.
That is nice. I need you guys to open a location in Claremont, because
I know
it's so like, I really feel like it's going to be like Winter Garden in a few years. Like that's what they're trying to build out right now. And I wouldn't be mad if there was a press right in the middle.
I know that's our number one requested location, but we feel between our current location and a location in Stony Brook, if we're going to branch out, we should branch out even further, and then maybe consider bringing our roots a little closer again.
Fine, I'll let it happen. But Katie, as far as your own health, so you were talking about your mom and how she had health issues for a while until she really started to dive in to learning more about nutrition. And like, did she switch to a plant-based diet, or how did you guys become interested in that? And is that how you ate predominantly as you grew up?
Actually, it's a kind of funny story. When we started Pressed, just because we were starting in a 200 square foot place, we decided that the way that the licensing works with the restaurants, we could actually fall under the Department of Agriculture if we didn't have any meat, eggs, or dairy. Basically just no animal products. So we started that way just out of ease and convenience. And people started coming in and they were like, oh, do you have chicken or do you have this? And we said, no, we don't have any meat here. And they're like, oh, so your restaurant's vegan. And we were like, I guess so. I mean, we didn't really know what vegan was at the time.
Right.
And everybody kept telling us this. And we're like, yeah, I guess our restaurant's vegan. So we started advertising as vegan. But we had some backlash against the honey that we do serve. And over time, as we tried to expand our menu, we kind of realized that vegan is a very sacred word for many, and that it is not just a diet, it is a way of life. And so we respect that. So we started moving to saying that we were plant-based instead of vegan.
Right.
Because we want to be able to serve a wide variety of customers. We are not plant-based ourselves as a family. We are very careful with where we get our animal products, but the plant-based really is, it kind of fell into our hands. We didn't intend for it to be that way, but we wanted to continue showing Winter Garden, which is a very pork and beans kind of place, that there is really good food and you can have some really awesome stuff without having an animal product in it.
Right. That's amazing. Yeah. So if you guys are listening and you want to start a restaurant, you could make it plant-based and make it a little less hassle on yourself with the, no.
Yeah.
That's interesting though. I've never heard that before, but I mean, that does make sense though.
Yeah. So, I know a lot of people are, they definitely are wondering why we aren't plant-based, or a lot of people, my mom always says like, she's not the image of the juice bar. But we are health conscious, and we do try and do a lot of homeopathic remedies and take care of ourselves in that way. And obviously we eat a lot of our own stuff from the juice bar. So while we're not completely plant-based, we are growing and learning more in our health journey and always trying new things and kind of trying to decide what's the best health journey for ourselves.
Yeah, it's a process for everybody. And I think if you get to the point of where like the majority of what you do is, you're focusing on health and being health conscious, like then you're on a way better path than most people. I think it's just making that the majority and just respecting the process, because everybody's at such a different place. And that's amazing that you guys are into just holistic healing in general. I mean, you're pretty big into yoga too, right?
I was before I had my son. I was definitely into yoga and really enjoying it. And it's been a little bit of a time suck now having a kid. Maybe when he's a little older, I'll dive back into it. But I actually wanted to just reiterate back on the point that you just said, where, being able to serve all different kinds of people, that has always been our mantra. If somebody has the opportunity to talk to one of us as an owner in the restaurant, and they say, what is pressed and like, what do you want to do with it? We want anybody and everybody to be able to walk in and feel like they can eat our food and that they don't have to look a certain way or eat a certain way, that they are just more than welcome to try anything and eat. It's funny that some people almost feel like, I don't look like the people that walk into that juice bar. I can't eat there, or I can't go in there. And we never want anybody to feel that way. So that's something that we have always preached from the get-go. If you've had a chance to talk to us, that's what we like to say.
No, I love that. And that's perfect. Because I mean, really, like if you are if you're at Pressed, if you're walking around, like I said, you're walking past a mix of basically all types of ways of eating.
Yes.
So you have people walking around with, whether they've picked up a smoothie from you guys or they're walking around with their beer from the brewery right down the hall. It's just like, it's such a diverse mix, but it all mixes so well, if that makes sense.
It does. It's definitely, the Plant Street Market itself is a great place for a large group of people to come, and everybody can eat whatever they want. Whether you want to try and eat something healthy and delicious, or if you want to indulge, every option is literally there.
That's amazing. So like, as far as like when you were talking about like just the start of Pressed, so it mainly came from your mom then, right? That's what you were saying?
Yeah, it started off as her idea. I was working as a manager at Florida Hospital at the time at one of their outpatient rehab centers. And she was, not that she wasn't busy, she's vice president of a student housing company, and they had student housing all over America and in Canada, and she was very, very busy. So it was it was her idea, and she wanted to try and see if we could do something that we had more passion about. And while we loved our jobs, we just knew that we could be doing more to serve the community and do something that we really love.
Right. I'm sure it's just super rewarding too, because, with you working in a hospital setting, you're constantly around, or maybe you're not really constantly around in like division that you were in, but you're constantly around people who are either sick or struggling with like lifestyle diseases. And now you're serving basically things that are creating health in people. So it's kind of opposite spectrum. And I'm sure that's just extremely rewarding to be at that place.
For sure. Yeah, it was. And even as I was working at the juice bar on the weekends and working during the week at the hospital, and the more I kept learning and absorbing, it was fun to talk to people when they came in and, talk about their swelling or their inflammation. And I would say, well, you should really look into a turmeric supplement that could help with your inflammation. And they're like, oh, what's that? And then I get to talk to them about that stuff. That was fun.
No, that's amazing. And like whenever, when you're starting a restaurant, there's I can't imagine all of the struggles and the long hours that come with that, because I can't imagine how much work it takes to really pull that off. What were some of the biggest struggles that you guys had, or maybe some of the struggles that you had that maybe most people wouldn't know was going on behind the scenes? I'm sure there's a list.
There is a list. When we talk about the juice bar and doing the juice bar and running it and the sacrifices made, the juice bar, while it seems like such a lucrative business, is probably more lucrative when you are mass producing or trying to do stuff that's not organic. Most of the stuff that the juices that you see in the grocery store are high pressure pasteurized. So they can last about 45 days. And I could go into the process of how that happens, but that juice isn't as fresh, but they're able to make more money off of it because of the quantities in which they can produce it. For us, it's not that easy. So we don't go into the juice bar to make money. It's really out of passion. And now I've lost my way here. What was I just talking about?
Because you're driving right now, right?
No, I am, but it was going to link back in there. It was.
Please don't wreck. Yeah, you guys, she's doing this while she's driving, so big thumbs up. But please don't die during this podcast. That's very bad. No, you were just talking about the biggest struggles that you guys had to deal with.
Yes. Okay. So as I was saying, the juice bar is not a very lucrative business. We're not in here, raking in the cash every day. So some of the biggest struggles are the long hours. If employees call out, and we can't find somebody to cover, that's on us. And then we're in there. And it's not that we don't want to be in there, but there's some times where, we have to then rearrange our lives and our daily whatevers to get in there. And I've had days where my mom's unavailable because she's caring for my grandparents, and we have employees call out last minute. And so I have to strap my baby to my back and go into the juice bar and work. And that's what happens when it's your business. You can't just not do those kind of things. So usually the employees are the hard part. Trying to satisfy every customer is really difficult. And while we love that we're able to make a large majority happy, it's never that every day. And it's a lot of things become almost personal, and you try and make it not personal when you're putting your sweat, blood, and tears into your restaurant, and people are unhappy or putting you on blast on social media or something like that. It's,
right.
Those kind of things really, really affect you in your day to day. And, it can suddenly make a bad day when you see that you've got a bad review somewhere, even though, you're trying as hard as you can to do your best, and hopefully your employees are doing their best. And,
it's like you can have like a million good reviews and you have the one bad, and you like let that get to you. And it's like getting to a place where you don't let that, you focus on all of the good ones and not just that one single bad one. Right?
Yeah. It's, you really try not to. And, people, if you go somewhere and you have a great experience, leave a good review. Like those are the hardest ones to get, are the good reviews.
I had somebody I follow on like Twitter or something. They were posting the other day. It was basically saying that it's like if you have a good experience, like you never leave a good review at a place, and then like the only ones that ever leave reviews are the bad ones, and it's so true. So it's funny to hear that twice in 1 week. But yeah, no, I needed to start doing that myself though. It's just like if you have a good experience, like write that review instead of the negative one.
Right. Or, some people, they'll come in and one little thing might be off, and then suddenly we get like, they're like, love the food, love the atmosphere, didn't like the prices of the juice, and we get a 1-star review, and it's like, okay, well, you liked everything else. So it's, funny stuff like that. But or when we have I think the only time we've ever raised our prices on our juices was one time when we moved from Boyd Street to Plant Street Market. And just because we realized the whole time that we were doing the juicing before, we were basically throwing money down the drain, and we were paying people to drink our juice. It didn't make sense. We weren't breaking even. So we raised our prices a bit and changed some stuff around, and it was mutiny. And because we had such a small clientele, they all knew, and they were really upset for a while. And it was hard to do, and it was hard to justify for some people. And we try and explain ourselves, and we try and be very upfront and honest. And we try and have a very fair pricing. I mean, I don't know where else you can go and get a giant pile of nachos for under $6. But, I think people see the price of the juice at $10 and they just think everything's expensive, when we try and keep it all pretty fair.
Yeah. Well, first off, the nachos are amazing. And I have my daughter, she's almost 3, and the nachos are her favorite by far.
Oh, yeah. They're good.
They're so good. And I'm glad you brought up the price with the juice, because, or even, juice or smoothies, because I think people do tend to compare, like if you're not really thrown into like that type of world of like, more about juice and nutrition, because like you were saying before, there is a huge difference between you go to the store, you buy a juice, it's super processed, then you actually buy all the produce, you're juicing it yourself. Like people don't realize how much it takes to make that size of a juice. Like it takes a lot to make that much. And I know you're mentioning the process. And feel free to go into that, because I think it is an important thing to really point out.
Yeah. So a funny story about that is we had a couple who was coming in, and they were a young couple, and they were there probably 2 to 3 times a week and getting juices. And one day they talked to my mom, and they were like, look, we're spending like $200 a month here, and we just can't afford to keep coming here. So you're going to see a lot less of us. We bought a juicer, and we're going to be juicing at home. And we were like, okay. So we gave them some tips, and, wish them well in their journey. And I want to say like a month or 2 later, they came back and they're like, oh my gosh, we are blowing through produce. It takes so much. And to clean our juicing machine, it's such a pain in the butt. They're like, we would rather buy it for the convenience, and it's like almost the same cost. And we were like, we get some breaks on the produce price. You're paying retail, and we're paying wholesale. So there's just some differences. And it was really funny. So they ended up coming back, and we're our regular customers again. But I always tell people about that when they balk at the prices of our juice. So the cold press juices that are in the bottles and on the shelf, that is the cold press process. And what we do is we quickly and gently blend the produce, the fruits and veggies, down into a pulp, and press that in a bag using a very large press. And it filters through all the juice, and all of the fibers are left behind. Some people wonder why we serve juices without fibers. It's because we can fit more nutrients into a bottle. So you're drinking anywhere from 3 to 6 pounds of produce in a bottle versus what you would get in like a kale smoothie per se. You'd probably get a couple pieces of kale and maybe a piece of fruit, and that's all you could fit in. And it's not as much, but you get the fiber. Most people have enough fiber or have other ways that they can get fiber into their diet, where the juices is just the pure nutrients. And then we also have the option inside of our Plant Street Market location only for centrifugal juice, which is we call it a custom juice. So people can build their own juice and have that made right there. And people think that's more fresh, which is kind of a misconception. It is technically made right away. But the centrifugal juice process forces a lot of oxygen into it as it spins. The pulp goes out a tube one way and the juice goes out another, but there is still some fibers and some other stuff that's in the juice. So when that happens, it forces oxygen into it. The product separates a lot more quickly, and it's not as, it's got like a 45-minute shelf life. So you want to drink it right away, which is fine for most people, but you just don't get as much out of it. And because we have to charge the same cost because we put in more produce to get the amount of juice, the cold press is always the way to go. And I try and make it very clear to people, like it's not any better for me profit wise, whether you pick the cold press or the custom juice. I'm just letting you know that the cold press is the best. So I try and make that very clear with the customers and tell them it's no bother to me, whichever they want. I just want to make sure that they're getting the best. And the cold pressed juice, it depends on the juice. We sell them within 3 days for optimal freshness, or if people want to have them at home. I can tell you I've drank a juice up to 2 weeks old and it's been fine. My mom's a little more adventurous with that and will drink even older juices. Especially if they have lemon or something in them, they can hold out and they're pretty fine to drink. They might lose some nutrients, but it's still better than a milkshake. Right. So I tell people if they want to buy some juices and take them home, they're more than welcome to have them there at their own risk and keep them and see how they do. But yeah, so that's the difference in the two. And then the final example is a lot of people come in and say, well, I can buy a juice at Publix for $5. Why are yours 10? And that's what I was touching on before with the high pressure pasteurization process. The juices are pressed just like ours, a cold press, but everything's kind of put into a big vat. And the pressure is like deeper than the depths of the ocean. And what it does is, what they claim it does is break down all the bad enzymes so that bacteria can't grow and that the juices can't spoil as quickly. But what actually happens, or our belief is, how can you just break down bad enzymes and nutrients and not the good stuff? Right. And nobody can put produce in their fridge and have it last 45 days. It's going to rot. So if you can get it in a juice 45 days old, it's a little questionable. So I just tell people to think about that when they get a juice.
No, that's super important. And I mean, to kind of go back on what you were saying with, obviously juicing is different than a smoothie because you're eliminating the fiber and the nutrients can get to your bloodstream faster as well. But you have to look at, whenever you are looking at like that $5 juice from Publix, it also doesn't have the fiber, but it's also probably loaded with a lot of pesticides and a lot of chemicals that you're not going to be getting it if you get something that's cold pressed or like something that you guys have, which is important because you're also absorbing that quicker and you're absorbing a lot of unnecessary chemicals and pesticides as well. So yeah, it's $5 or it's $2 for a gallon or whatever they have, but you're getting what you pay for, and it's going to show up in other ways in your health.
For sure. Yeah. And even more importantly, it's, when you look at a business like ours or any kind of small business, there's a family behind there busting their butt and, trying to make a living. And it's nice to be able to support the local family businesses. And I have, since we've opened ours, a deeper appreciation. And whenever I travel or do something like that, I look for the small businesses that I can go and support and try not to give all my money to the big corporations. Well, I understand there's people behind those as well. They're doing a lot better than we are.
Hey, all of the family-owned plant-based restaurants are always the best ones, though.
Yes, so true.
Yeah, how has it been with like just having? I know it's there's no way to be perfectly balanced with everything, but I mean, you do have a young son and a family, and you guys are trying to, run the juice bar. Like, how does it all balance out, or how have you guys found more balance with that and things that have worked for you guys?
So my mom and I joke that we get into these rhythms of trading off being burned out of the juice bar. So when she first opened up and I was actually still working at Florida Hospital, I was getting married at the end of the year. And I was like, I've got so much going on. I just really can't plan to be involved until the beginning of 2014. So she was doing her VP position and running the juice bar, and she would kind of got burned out. And then I talked with my husband and we made the decision that I could transfer over, leave my job at Florida Hospital and work full-time at the juice bar. So I got into it, gave my mom a break, took over a lot of stuff, and then next thing you know, I'm the one getting burned out. So we joke that mom's back in the saddle now, and I've taken a step back, and I do a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff, a lot of the ordering. My son is luckily good enough to hang out in the car, and so we do a lot of errand running, and he'll come along with me, keeping stuff available between the stores. And my mom's really the one who's at the forefront and that people are seeing most of the time. So that's our current trade-off. And then once my son's a little bit older and not as dependent on me, then I'm hoping to give my mom a break, let her spend some time with the grandson, and I'll be back in the juice bar kind of taking over things again.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, that definitely helps to have the trade-off. And have you guys done any type of like community outreach with like the products that you put out? Do you guys work closely with the community as far as working with other local businesses or reaching out to people who need food, or have you guys done anything like that?
It depends on the season and the year. This year, not as much as since we've been growing and just really trying to focus on keeping up with everything is usually ends up being our biggest focus. We do like farmers markets and stuff like that, but as far as more charitable or more community outreach, not as much. There's not anything that we've found yet that we're super passionate about that we would want to be able to put that time and effort into. But if we found it and it was something that we could divide and conquer on, then that would be something that we would definitely consider. But I don't think we have that in our wheelhouse yet.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, just all about you would definitely have to feel passionate about the project, since it would be additional add-on to the work that you guys are already doing. So
exactly.
Totally understand. But yeah, so I mean, is there anything that you guys have going on in the future that you guys are working on or want to put out there and share, or just continue to build the restaurant and just grow?
Our next hope really is we have a vintage truck, and we are hoping to have another. And our hopes with those trucks would be that we can go out to like Lake Nona Farmers Market or Claremont or these other places, or even just do a day where we do some kind of like pre-online ordering that people could pick some stuff and we would have it made and delivered. And then we would say, for example, we will be in this place at this time, and you can come and pick up your order. Here's however long, 3 days or so to put your order in, and we'll see you then. So we would like to be able to reach out to more places since we have a mobile license and do some more farmers market. But, of course, all those things are time and effort and planning on our part. And so just sometimes we find it hard in the day-to-day process to sit down and get all that stuff planned out. But that's our next venture, we're hoping.
That's really cool. How difficult was the mobile license?
That I can't answer. I think my mom handled most of that. So I don't think it's too much different than getting a normal business license and getting started. I think somebody comes out and they inspect and see what you're doing, and then you get a license. Aside from all the paperwork and all the
no paperwork.
But it's I think it's very similar to opening up another kind of restaurant that's under the Department of Ag.
Yeah, no, that would be really cool though. And obviously I would be all for it if you want to send the truck this way. I would be,
of course.
I would be there waiting with No, but that's amazing, Katie. I love all of that. And what is the best way for people to follow you and follow the restaurant on social media? That way they can keep up with everything that you guys are working on.
Yeah, so even the social media, I handle that most of the time. And some days if I'm having a particularly difficult day with my son, I just don't have an opportunity to post or do anything. But it's literally everything about our business is us. So Instagram and Facebook are the best ways. Instagram is Pressed Juice Bar, PRESSD Juice Bar, and Facebook, I believe, is facebook.com/The Juice Bar of Winter Garden, which was our original name and is our LLC. But I think most people can either look up The Juice Bar of Winter Garden or Pressed Juice Bar and be able to find us.
Perfect. I'll put all of those in the show notes. That way people can just go click and give you guys an ad. But Katie, just a closing question that I ask every guest. But if you just had one piece of advice for the audience, maybe it's been your biggest takeaway on your whole wellness journey or the whole journey of opening the restaurant. But if you just have one piece of advice to give, what would it be?
I'm going to say, and that applies to our restaurant and to individuals, is start small. It's not always best to dive in head first and try and give every little bit of yourself to do these things. Sometimes you kind of got to ease into it and start with your big toe and work your way in. And that's how we built our business with our tiny space on Boyd. And here we are now. And I think it's a great way for people with their health journey. It's easier to not get so discouraged and to learn as you go and start small and grow from there.
No, that's perfect, Katie. I love it. And yeah, Katie, just thank you so much for taking time to come on. I loved having you. And yeah, guys, if you guys are listening and you're in the Winter Garden area, or you're passing through, definitely stop by Preston and pick up some food and tell them hi if she's there. And but Katie, just thank you so much for taking time to come on. I love what you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate being here, and thanks for talking with me.
Thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you loved my conversation with Katie. She's doing so much positive work, so be sure to go give her a follow on social media to keep up with everything that she's been working on. You can find her social media links that we talked about in the episode in the show notes, but you can also find them on my website as well at drkaseyjohnson.com. That's drkaseyjohnson.com. Click on the Listen tab. Then from there, you'll be able to see all of the past guests that have come on the Unlock Wellness podcast, read a little bit about each guest, and be able to click on their social media links, websites, all of that. So all of Katie's information can be found on my site as well. If you guys loved today's episode with Katie, be sure to jump onto iTunes, subscribe, and write a review. It really helps me out a lot, and I really appreciate all of the feedback and support. Thank you guys so much again for tuning into today's episode. I hope you loved it. I hope it inspires you. And most importantly, I hope you take action.